to my right we have Ronnie, Garza, Charlie, Vela, and Helena Taberna. These are our 3 invited directors for the first MSU Latinx Film Festival. We're so happy that they could join us. They traveled from the southernmost point of the United States to be here, and from Spain as well. So we thank them for making the journey and to be here in the snow with us and the Michigan winter. And so what I'd like to do is I'm just going to present them and really dive into questions right away, because I know that's what you want to hear more than anything, and I want to give everybody a chance who wants to ask a question. So I'll be fairly economical here, but we'll start with Ronnie and Charlie. This is your first documentary, As I Walk Through the Valley, your first feature documentary. And there'll be a Q&A after the projection tonight of the film, so they'll talk a lot about the film. What I'd like to focus on here is how did you both come to direct this film? It's your first film. What were you doing before that? Why did you decide to make the jump to cinema? And why this particular film?
Start?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to start by thanking everybody so much. Scott, Jose, Osvaldo, Claudia, Miguel, Julie, Judith, for being such great hosts and showing the film. We're really excited to show it to you guys tonight. So in terms of why we wanted to make the movie, we both approached it, for different reasons. Myself, I do a lot of art. I do poetry and painting and music, and always liked film, but really got back into film around 2013, relating to protests and activism. So I started covering HB2 in Austin, which was kind of made famous by the Wendy Davis filibuster, covering that on the ground, making these quick 15, 20-minute things and turning them around, putting them out the next day. Then when I moved back to the Valley, started working or documenting what was happening with the immigration surge or humanitarian crisis from Central America. A lot of people coming to McAllen before they went off to different places, and documenting that. With both of those are heavy topics, but it brought a lot of attention to the Valley. Both issues affected the Valley maybe disproportionately than some others. And so there was a lot of attention on the place, but also a lot of sort of confusion and maybe misrepresentation of what it was like. And so we got to talking about this music doc, and it seemed like a perfect way to kind of have people learn about the place, but also learn about some of the great things there, the music there, and some of the culture. And we cover 40 years, so it's a little bit of the history of the place as well.
And I myself have been making records in the Valley for going on 20 years now. I think my first paid gig was in 1998 or something like that. So I've been working in the local music scene consistently during that whole time, and it's something that has it's been like a home for me for many years, but a place that has supported me, and I felt like telling the story of where we come from musically, or elements of our history, it was a way of kind of giving back to that same community that I felt like kind of fostered me through my whole adolescence and early adulthood, and also pushing back against kind of this sense that a lot of people have there of being less than, of not feeling good enough, feeling like everything sucks here. That's I'm sure that's common to many parts of the country, many small towns. People feel conflicted about their relationship with where they come from. But because of our population, because of our proximity to the border, there are kind of other factors at play in feeling inferior. And so if somebody, to make a movie that if somebody who is 17 or 16 could see it and feel proud from where they came from, feel good about it, oh, I'm part of something, I'm part of a legacy, I'm part of a history, that would be something that would make me feel really good to be a part of and to help out with. So
I have one question.
Sure.
How did you two meet?
Well, we met in high school.
Yeah.
We went to a magnet high school for science and technology. So we went to the nerd school, and so it was it was open to students from all over the Valley. Just to make it clear, the Rio Grande Valley is a set of counties across the southernmost border. So it's a bunch of cities. We're all connected by a highway network. So each city is unique. It has its own kind of characteristics, but we share like kind of an overreaching valley identity. It's very quick to go from one city to the other. They kind of bleed together in many cases. So it's a large place. It's not just one city. So I was living in Weslaco. It's where I grew up. It's kind of central, and Ronnie was living in McAllen at the time. But because of this magnet school, we were both in the same place at the same time. And so yeah, we went to school there.
We started doing some video way back then, little
Yeah.
skits and shorts.
Yeah.
And
So part of what was cool about the high school is they didn't really like do sports. So football in Texas is like a thing, right? But there,
no music either.
We didn't have a music program, didn't have a sports program. However, there was like a lot of student clubs, and we had a multi-million-dollar library, so we had access to like editing equipment before a normal high school would when they were building a $1 million scoreboard or whatever. So this is in the late '90s, so we had access to that kind of early on. So there's a cinema club that we were founding members of. And there was also a place where a lot of bands would get together, because you would have kind of kids who felt, alienated or weird in their home high schools, all on the same place. So like the first band that I was in was with people who were like from all over the place that we would probably never bumped into each other otherwise. So it was a nice little kind of melting pot of folks from the region.
So it seems like this documentary is really an outgrowth of your own experiences in the Valley, obviously, but also your connections to music and community and history. So that's the first film, and we'll talk more about that, and there may be some more questions about it now. But what's next for you guys?
Well, we have a couple projects in the works at the moment. We haven't officially announced what they are yet, but one of the projects they're both going to be histories. One of the projects we're working with some local professors, some Valley historians specifically, and then the other project.
The other project is with a new online platform called Meta. They're it's kind of like a video and kind of media production company, and they focus a lot on like border issues, immigration issues, LGBTQ issues, and so we're partnering with them on a new project. We'll be announcing that later this month, I believe. But yeah, so it's a kind of like, continuing to tell stories about the region. You should have a hand in like talking about where you're from.
Like reclaiming the history.
Right.
Because even in doing the music doc, we found so much of what could have been great archival footage had just been trashed. So there's this sort of sense that we don't really preserve our history, we don't really value our history. So we felt it's kind of important to keep doing that.
All right. So great, more people are joining us. This is fantastic. Just in time, you're from Helena Taberna. So Helena Taberna is a very established director in Spain, but also one thing that we all have in common, and I'll even add myself cautiously into the mix, is that you didn't study film. You didn't go to film school,
No.
right? And Helena, I know, didn't go to film school either. You all picked up cameras when they were available, a video camera in Elena's case, when that became available. Digital technologies has made it much easier to do these sorts of things. And so you all share this background. And so Elena does too, but she's been at it a lot longer and has many films to her credit, which you may be familiar with. So Yo Diez was her breakout film. And then she followed that up with La Buena Nueva for her second feature. Her third feature will play tomorrow at Studio C in the afternoon at 2:30, which is Acantilado, or The Cliff. So we're really excited to have that. It's a Spanish thriller, a new genre for Elena that she'll talk about more tomorrow. But also she rotates and moves very effortlessly between features and documentary filmmaking as well. So she's also the director of Extranjeras, which is the first film of hers that I had the opportunity to see when I was living in Madrid, in the same neighborhood many years ago. And then another documentary, Nagoy, also, which is unfortunately very relevant, that has to do with sexual violence, which has come up in Spain again. So Jose is going to do some translation work for us here. I'm going to ask the questions in English and then in Spanish, and Jose is going to translate answers into English. But I'd like to just give Elena a little bit of an opportunity to talk about her career and how she got started and why she wanted to switch careers and start making movies. So, bueno, la pregunta es más o menos ¿por qué has cambiado de carrera para ser cineasta, ¿no? Y empezar a hacer cine y por qué, y un poco sobre la carrera en general.
Lo que no entiendo es cómo hasta los 30 años pude vivir sin hacer cine, sin pensar en hacer cine.
What she said was that she doesn't understand how she lived 30 years without knowing how to do films.
Están preparando un libro mío y le titulan El cine o la vida.
So they were preparing a book of hers and it's titled Film or Life.
Y creo que realmente es así. O sea, a mí el cine me apasionaba ya antes, pero lo que no pensaba es que podía yo ponerme detrás de la cámara. No es ajeno a eso el hecho de ser mujer y de no vivir en Madrid.
What she said was, it's very true what the title of the book is. She didn't think that being a woman would stop that from being, a project.
Yeah, she didn't think it'd be possible as a woman filmmaker living outside of Madrid. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Y la ventaja es la aparición del vídeo. Desde cuando el vídeo doméstico entró, yo supe que tenía, como el escritor tiene el lápiz y el papel, y puede salir una obra maestra o no. Y yo ya tenía el vídeo y con eso podía jugar a contar historias.
And so she said that everything became more possible when video cameras came out. And so she was able to sit down, write down, like as an author, and then sit and experiment with video and tell stories. Yeah.
Y yo por eso, que estamos en un entorno universitario y realmente con profesores y tal, la capacidad que existe en este momento de crear cineastas es enorme. Cineastas que tengan proyección o no, que es lo de menos, pero que tenemos teléfonos móviles que pueden contarse joyas, o sea, que incorporemos que todavía los profesores siempre vamos muy detrás de la sociedad y de todo lo que viene. Adelantemos que a la hora de hacer una redacción se puede hacer una redacción o un estudio en vídeo, o sea, incorporemos el cine, pues eso me parece interesante. Plataformas como esta de festivales de cine donde se puedan ver obras interesantes y a la vez que estimulen la creatividad de los alumnos, la creatividad y el desarrollo intelectual a máximo nivel, también. No.
Okay. Mucho suerte.
Since we are in an academic field, it is very important to, for everyone at the university to start helping students become filmmakers. And it doesn't matter how you start, as long as you have something to film something. And she said, having cell phones, then that's the good starting point. Later you can perfection your abilities. But the important is to create films and then show them, portray them in film festivals like this.
Mm-hmm. Good job.
Un poquito menos pasión.
Okay, so I have one question because I am familiar with Elena's films. That we've been friends for several years. I've had the pleasure to be able to collaborate a little bit on The Cliff. But in reviewing all of Elena's feature films, there's some recurring themes that happen. And so one of the recurring themes that you'll see if you see The Cliff, but with a little bit of a twist, is that there seems to be a focus on an individual who's trying to escape some kind of oppressive structure. And that's the dilemma. They're trying to get out of it. And they have different ends, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. But I'm curious why Elena keeps coming back to that story. What is it about that storyline in particular? And the other thing I'll add, and she knows that we've talked about this before, The Cliff obviously references a cliff, but then in La Buena Nueva, there's also a very important role that heights and another cliff plays in the film. If you've seen it, you're aware of that. In Yodies, there's a little scene. It's not quite as intense, but that's always there too. So I'm curious about what's going on there. Vale, la pregunta más o menos es que en Yodies, en La Buena Nueva, en Acantilado, se repite una historia de una persona protagonista normalmente que está tratando de salir de un una estructura, una organización opresiva, ¿no? Que alguien que está en contra de eso, pero es difícil escapar, ¿no? Esa liberación, ¿no?
Sí.
¿Por qué es esto? ¿Por qué tendrá tanto es esto?
Vale, exactamente yo no soy consciente de eso. Quiero decir que eso es un análisis que hacen después los críticos de cine.
She's not exactly conscious about this. This is some analysis that film critics, develop later on.
Especialmente con mi última película, Acantilado, en la que yo pensaba que había hecho una película muy diferente de las otras.
Especially with this last film, I thought that I had made a different film than the other ones.
Y realmente es una película muy diferente de las otras.
Sí.
Formalmente es más experimental, es una película sensorial, es una película hecha para salas de cine. O sea, esa película hay que verla en sala de cine porque todo lo sensorial importa, ¿eh? Y yo quería entrar en el espectador de la manera que ya tenemos que despedirnos porque las salas de cine van desapareciendo, vemos mucho más en otros formatos.
Especially with this film because I wanted to, because this film is it's more experimental, more has more censorship.
Sensory experience.
Sensory experience.
The sound is really important.
And so I wanted to create this to get to a wider audience, and this is a movie that has to be watched at a movie theater. And so I wanted to reach to those viewers and have that experience like that.
Y luego quería ceñirme a la estructura del thriller, de género. O sea, era una película, por primera vez iba a hacer una película de género.
And so I wanted to create a thriller, at least the first movie in that kind of genre.
Antes de terminar, hay una intervención ahí.
Yo soy un ignorante de cine y todas esas
Sí.
cosas. Me gusta y veo miles de películas, pero no sé las teorías. ¿Qué significa sensorial en el contexto?
Ah, ¿qué significa sensorial? Los sentidos.
No, claro, pero más específico.
No, quiero decir que no, yo digo lo que pienso que es mi película. O sea, que es una película especialmente para que estén todos los sentidos abiertos. Y para que estén todos los sentidos abiertos, el ritual de la sala de cine oscura, con un buen sonido y el silencio, es básico. No es una película para verla comiendo con palomitas, oyéndose al baño o tal, no.
So this movie, when I talk about the senses, I talk about all the senses being open and available, meaning you sit down and you watch it. If there's a silence, there's a purpose for that silence. This is not a movie that you sit down and then you eat popcorn with it. It's to be aware of everything that's going on.
Porque además con esta película me he atrevido a hacer la secuencia inicial más potente que uno puede imaginarse y eso me ha obligado a que todo el resto de la película mantenga el mismo ritmo.
And especially with this movie, I've decided to do this most powerful sequence that anyone can imagine, and I have been able to maintain that rhythm.
Pero bueno, nos estamos enrollando. Lo que dijo el crítico es: Elena, te crees que estás haciendo otra película diferente, pero hablas de lo mismo, de cómo se concita la libertad individual y la pertenencia al grupo. Cómo concitar en el mundo que vivimos dos cosas que para mí son esenciales para estar vivos. Poder tener la propia libertad individual, pero a la vez ser solidario, poder a la vez concitar esa libertad con la libertad de los demás. Harto complicado y cada vez con el mundo que nos viene más complicado todavía. O sea que yo creo que tendré que hacer otras 3 o 4 más, me temo, tratando distintos temas para que no nos engañemos creyendo que ya estamos con la libertad conseguida.
So try to get as much as I
Yeah,
can
I'll help
remember.
you. I'll help as much as I can.
I thought I tried to do something different, but what the film critics are saying, it's the same motif, same patterns. What I wanted to do is have some kind of freedom, but at the same time express some solidarity with other people, society, and stuff.
Yeah. More or less.
Sí,
Yeah.
more or less.
Exactamente.
There's this tension that's in all of the films, I think, in different ways. Obviously, the quest for individual freedom, but also solidarity at the same time. And so Lena's saying, these are two of the fundamental things we need to do, and it's even more difficult to do them in our current moment. So there's another 3 or 4 films that she can make with the same
Y luego ya
storyline.
para simplificar un poco más, cierro diciendo que las sectas, me interesaban las sectas, porque yo, a diferencia del resto del mundo, pienso que la secta está en nosotros. O sea, que casi todos los comportamientos humanos son sectarios, desde la pareja hasta el grupo de amigos y hasta todo eso. que creo sectarios.
Sect.
O sea, que las sectas no son solamente las sectas que decimos que son sectas, ¿no? Los grupos religiosos, sino que cualquier agrupación humana participa de comportamientos sectarios.
So she's saying, I don't refer to sects as just the ones, religious ones, or it's within us as individuals, as part of society, that we behave the same way.
Porque la necesidad de afecto del ser humano es tan grande que consentimos cosas por estar acompañados.
Because our need for affection, it's so great that we feel things just to be with, accompanied with someone else.
Okay. I don't. If people have questions, I don't want us to take up all of the space here. So, does anybody have any questions for any of the directors?
For Charlotte, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Del Valle, I'm from Westland.
Oh,
I was
okay.
raised in Westland.
All right.
And she was raised in Progreso.
Oh, wonderful.
And then Westland.
Is that where you met?
Pardon?
Is that where you met?
No.
Is that where both of you met?
Yeah.
No.
We met in Progreso.
Yeah,
He doesn't remember.
You think I recall?
Yeah.
Él no puede recordar.
Lejos, ¿eh?
You know,
Muy lejos, no sé.
Wait.
No te conoces. Solo pentanteo. Tú me conocías un poco más, pero
I go back and forth as much as I can.
Uh-huh.
No.
I've been going for almost 40 years. So when I go there, Del Valle cambia. Every time it's different. It evolves, good and bad. But my question for you, and I don't know if you can talk about it in your film, is what is that? Does the wall play does it have any effect on the Valle, the people of the valley, the physical wall?
I think more than anything, my mom's not very political, but every time she hears on the news that Mexico's going to pay for the wall, she goes, "Mexico's not going to pay for that wall." I think it's more insulting than anything. There's definitely some ecological concerns.
Yeah.
There's a group called Save RGV from LNG, and they have a number of scientists with them, and they're kind of concerned about some of the places where the wall's gonna be located.
Right. The wall wants to go through the Santa Ana Wildlife Refuge.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely ecological damage that will occur as a result. Animal migration patterns will be interrupted. A lot of endangered species live there as well. Psychologically, though, I think it's a taxing thing.
I guess what I want to ask is there any psychological effect of that wall on the people of the valley? Now, I went there about several years ago, and I knew about the wall, right, because we hear about it over here. And it seemed that my friends in the Valle, they were kind of immune to that thought. And until we drove by it, they say, you know what, I live here and I don't really pay attention to this thing.
Right.
And it was impacting.
Depending on what part of the valley you're in, you may see it or you may not. If you're in Brownsville, it's gonna be a lot more visible than if you're in McAllen. You gotta travel a ways to kind of get to it.
The fence has been there already for a number of years. So, but it's part. I think it's part of when you're so close to something. I try to travel to the city and I meet up with friends and we want to go and see the sights and stuff. And they're like, you know what? I've been living here 15 years. I've never been to this place before. And I think when you're so close to something, there's a sense that it's here, but I have my job and my family and all the things I'm concerned about. And when you're an expat or you're traveling, you have distance between where you're from and where you are. You have a much broader view of all the things that are going on there. Looking back at a place and the wall is happening there, it's surely this is the biggest concern of everybody who lives there. But just like with most places and most things, that people are just trying to get through their lives.
I mean,
It's a topic for a film.
Uh-huh.
there is a film that's going to be shown down at City El Rey in a couple of weeks called The Wall. But I think now that people may be starting to feel a pinch, like my mom's a teacher, they start to feel a pinch, in terms of after school tutoring or weekend tutoring or whatever. This sort of sense that you're going to be throwing money away on this monument. It's more of a symbol than anything. Where people are thrifty down there. People they make every penny count. And to have this this notion that you're going to throw billions of dollars away at this ugly ineffective thing is it's insulting and it's racist.
So I'm organizing a dance that I will go next week. It's a charity thing, but anyway. So it's gonna be with Latino. And in Lansing, we have the ones who came from Texas and the immigrants who came from Mexico. And me, for no, but the vast majority.
Gente Latina.
In the committee that is planning this thing, we have this big fight because the Mexicans and the Texans don't like the same music. And I was like, what? It's not the same thing.
Well, yeah, it's
So that was really
Yeah.
shocking to me. So the Texans said, we don't really dance this Mexican music. We don't like it. Can we mix it up a little bit? I was really shocked by that. I was like, oh, I thought we were the same.
it's the narcissism of tiny differences, right? Like, you know, we.
I don't know. Are there tiny differences or?
I mean, there's okay. For me personally, growing up, Spanish language music was a monolith. Like all styles were all in another language, therefore they're all kind of like I like this, I like American music or whatever.
Thank you.
And then, but then as you immerse yourself in it and learn, you know, you start understanding these like stylistic differences, and they become more and more apparent the more you're exposed. And so, like, of course, there's, you know, banda is different from norteño, is different from conjunto, is different from tejano, is different from, you know, cumbia, is different, you know, but you know, depending on how much of it you're erased around or exposed to, those things can all seem like just a big blah. You know, it's all music, and depending on how deep you are in it, those differences can be like very contentious. You know, and people can be very protective of their particular style and
Pride.
And yeah,
Regional pride.
Regional pride, absolutely.
But I think it's important to note that, however, Mexican culture is Mexican culture in Mexico. We as an American people of Mexican ancestry have our own culture. Of course, it influences by not only from Mexico, but all Latin America, and including Spain,
Yes.
that influences us and who we do, the music that we like. So they are distinct cultures. However, the unity that we all have is within ourselves as Latinos in the United States.
Sure.
¿Mm? Dale. Así es. Yo le voy a explicar en español porque es más difícil. Pero hablamos muy bien el español aquí tan norte de México y Texas. Porque Texas es una parte especial del país, otro país.
Sí, claro.
¿Sí o no?
Sí.
Ok. Ok.
Any other questions for anyone?
Just thank you for being here. Muchísimas gracias por su presencia. Es tan importante para nosotros, mexicoamericanos, latinos, que hay algo que representa a nosotros. Nosotros. ¿Ah?
I have a question, and then I'll say lo digo en español. So I know you mentioned that you changed your career because you said you couldn't live without cinema. You didn't know how to live without films and cinema. But what was that key point that made you just make that decision and say, forget everything else, I'm just going to do films? Entonces usted habla sobre cómo el libro, ¿no? Que era el cine, el lápiz o el cine o algo así, ¿no? Que dice que cambió su carrera, sino la vida, perdón,
Sí.
que cambió su carrera, pero ¿cuál fue ese momento que usted decidió, dejo mi carrera aparte, creo que trabajaba en una universidad y me dedico al cine solamente? ¿Cuál fue ese momento?
Yo ya había hecho algunos cortos experimentales por mi cuenta y de repente estoy en ese momento, digo, o me dedico profesionalmente o solamente seré como las pianistas de principios de siglo que tocaban el piano en las fiestas familiares, ¿no? Y quise comprobar si tenía talento o no. Y me lancé como en El Precipicio, que por cierto hay muchos precipicios en mis películas.
So to sum it all up, she said by then she had already worked on some experimental short films, and so then she decided either I go and do it all or I don't, because if I just do a little bit, I would be like those piano players at the beginning of the century that they only play piano during parties or family parties, and so she decided to give
To
it
throw
all.
herself into the
To
cliff.
throw herself into
Into
the
the
cliff,
cliff.
like her movie. Yes.
De alguna manera lo que me permitió es vivir la vida apasionadamente.
So in a way, what it let her do is to live her life passionately.
Entonces, espero mañana a ver la película que han tirado y ya que tengamos un debate después. Bueno, vamos a invitar tenemos hoy la vuestra.
Ajá. Y mañana
Exacto, pero la vuestra, ¿a qué hora es?
Es
A las 7.
A las 7.
A las 7.
So she said, I'll see you guys tomorrow for my film, and then today we're also having the other film at 7.
Yes. And of course,
Sé que tengo mucha competencia porque mañana es el día de los bowls, ¿no? La gran liga.
Super Bowl.
O sea que tengo una competencia brutal, o sea que a ver si a los intelectuales eligen en lugar de la bowl.
Sí, pero es más tarde. Es
más tarde,
Es más
sí.
tarde.
so come to see the cliff and then go watch the Super Bowl. So we have a few things for our invited directors. We are a new, small festival. We don't have any prizes. There's no prize money. There's no competition. Actually, we have a kind of different politics around the festival. We do want to have you remember us in the future, so we have a few little gifts for you
Oh, thank you.
to take away.
Ah, sí, hola.
Thank you so much for joining us. And since it's very cold, I think. Okay, Elena already has hers, but we also have.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for coming. Get something to eat and drink, and we'll see you at the Robin Theater. We'll talk more about the films after that.